Now to an NBC News exclusive on the situation last month that left thousands of Haitian migrants camped out beneath a Texas bridge. According to 3 officials, the U.S. knew back in July that thousands of Haitians were heading to the border. But they say a failure to share intelligence, along with internal disagreements over deportations, and authorities were ill-equipped to deal with the situation. NBC News Justice correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us now with more on this. So, Julia, first, let's give everyone a little background. These migrants came from a country that's going from crisis to crisis. Remind us how and why tens of thousands of Haitian migrants converged on the border last month and what happened to them.
Well, what's interesting about this group, Joe, is that they actually left Haiti, many cases years ago, many after the 2010 earthquake, and have been living in countries like Chile and Brazil and in other places in Central America. And they started to congregate to migrate north for a number of reasons. A lot of those countries there have been devastated economically and by the pandemic, and they started to see this as their chance to come to the United States. Now, the U.S., we've now learned, had that intelligence in July, and there were discussions in DHS about what to do about this group. Should they start ramping up deportations of Haitians already in the United States back to Haiti as a kind of deterrent? It was ultimately decided not to do that, especially after the August 14th earthquake, a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, riled the country, and they decided not to start deportations. Now, looking back at it, there's a review going on inside DHS. They're looking back and saying, look, maybe there were some decisions made along the way, also including intelligence sharing that could have prevented this mass number of people showing up all at once.
Yeah, Julia, let's talk more about your reporting. I mean, what do the officials you spoke with say was going on behind the scenes in the lead up to these events?
Well, it's interesting, Joe, not just looking back, but looking forward. So there seems to be a split within the administration over how to handle immigration. They want to be different from Trump. They obviously don't want to be nearly as draconian and harsh on immigrants as he was. But they also need to have some way to enforce the border when you're looking at people crossing in numbers not seen in 2 decades. So there was this dispute in July where they said, let's start ramping up deportations. If we can just deport 50 Haitians a day, that's enough to keep us from having to deport where we are now, 7,000 Haitians in under 2 weeks. So those were discussions. But ultimately, the more progressive side of that argument won, Joe, and they decided not to do that. And they halted deportations after the earthquake. Now we know they definitely ramped those back up after so many showed up in Del Rio. The intelligence, though, Joe, even though they said that they knew some people were coming, they said they had no idea that they would see 28,000 plus Haitian migrants arriving in one location, that being under that bridge in Del Rio, Texas. And that's something they want to do better going forward, too, to try to get more intelligence, oftentimes from getting inside the cartels, figuring out what their messaging strategy is, and trying to get resources to a location that might be overwhelmed like this in the future.
All right. And you can see more of Julia's exclusive reporting on NBCNews.com. Julia, as always, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.